Hello, all you Tongo hustlers out there, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor.
Tongo, playing Tongo.
That's a real song.
Yeah. Copyright.
Yeah. My name is Fletcher. About to say hello is Data.
Yo.
Today we will recap and discuss Star Trek DS9 Season 5, Episode 11, The Darkness and the Light. Alternate title, 10 Little Bajorans.
I mean, yeah. Pretty much, right?
Just in case this is your first time watching Star Trek DS9, we will attempt to only discuss spoilers up through this episode, but minor spoilers can happen, and spoilers for lots of stuff can happen.
Yep.
So
Including
proceed at your own risk.
Any and all Agatha Christie novels may be spoiled.
Right.
Watch out.
Who did it in that one?
The dead guy did it, I think.
Oh my gosh. I haven't read any Agatha Christie books.
I haven't read that one, but I've read all of the Miss Marple books and all of the Hercule Poirot books, but that one is not either of those. But I did read like a summary of it at one point.
Okay. I've only seen the Kenneth Branagh Agatha Christie movies.
Yeah, we went and saw the Murder in Venice one that's supposed to be based on that Halloween story, and it was like it's nothing at all like that Halloween story.
Anyway, The Darkness and the Light originally aired January 6, 1997. So we're into 97. It was written by Ronald D. Moore, story by Brian Fuller.
Yep.
So quite a combo there.
Yeah, Brian Fuller of, many things fame at this point.
Right.
Although
showrunner of many shows.
Yeah, at this point in time, I don't think that he was particularly well known. But yeah, he goes on to, he made Pushing Daisies, which is a show that I love, and
the Hannibal TV show.
He was announced as the show, like he's been close to, associated with, and wanting to do Star Trek for a very long time, since this, I guess. And so at one point he was announced as the showrunner for the new untitled Star Trek series, which would become Discovery. But before the show actually started, I think it was early in production, he went off of the show to work on American Gods, I guess.
Oh yeah. And directed by Michael Vehar. Oh.
Yeah, I've heard his name a lot in association with Star Trek, because while this is his first episode that he's directed since he did a TNG episode, Coming of Age, which was his only Next Generation episode. So he hadn't done much Star Trek before this, but after this, he is a regular director on all Star Trek shows until the cancellation of Enterprise.
So, welcome, Michael Vehar. Cirroc Lofton is not in this episode that I know.
He sure is not. That was in the notes. Cirroc Lofton does not appear in this episode.
So, I guess he took a break after those last few episodes. So, in this episode, a group of Vedics gather in the cave set, where some cool carved pillars and a brazier-looking thing have been set up. They are greeted by Vedic Latha Mabrin, who welcomes them to some kind of spiritual retreat in the cave.
Yep.
I don't know. But they gather around the brazier, and Latha begins leading a prayer. But a weird, unnatural-looking light starts coming out of the brazier, which everybody's like, What?
Is this prophet magic? Oh my goodness.
Which focuses down to an energy beam, which shoots Latha, who falls over, dead. In the infirmary on Deep Space Nine, Dr. Bashir chides Kira for not taking her Makara herbs for her pregnancy.
Super important herbs.
Yes. She complains that the herbs taste bad and also cancel out her sedatives. So, man. Interesting herbs.
Can't you put a little sugar in there or something? Jeez.
Anti-sedative. Yeah, I know. Mix it in with some cinnamon, or I don't know. Odo enters and breaks the news of Latha's death, because it seems that Latha was a former member of the Shakar resistance cell, well known for being led by Kira's boyfriend and Bajoran First Minister Shakar.
Yep.
Kira says, well, that sucks, and goes back to her room to pray. But then she gets a message. She opens it to see a picture of Letha and a digital-sounding voice saying, "That's one." Odo, Cisco, and Kira gather in security to discuss. They interpret the message as a threat against the surviving members of the Shakar, which nobody seems worried includes the current leader of Bajor.
Yeah, no one ever seems concerned about that. I don't think there's any line like, oh, they've given him a bunch of extra security.
Right.
Or he's hiding out somewhere until this is all done. No, just...
It's like, we've notified Bajoran Secret Service. Nope.
So, apparently, in the original script, like, both the last episode, Rapture, and this one feature Shakar. Like, but once again, they were like, we don't have the budget to pay that guy.
Right. Yes, once again, it really seems like Shakar should be involved, but...
How dramatic would it have been if, like, he was the first one assassinated?
Ooh.
And it was just like, oh god, like, there's some sort of, like, there's a coup underway, or somebody's, like, trying to assassinate trying to overthrow the Bajoran government, but no, it turns out it's completely unrelated to his position as First Minister.
Right. Like, we just, our cold open is, like, Shakar riding through, like, Bajor City in a convertible.
Yeah.
Like, waving.
Back into the left, exactly.
Right. Anyway, nobody besides Kira got a message, so that's interesting. Also in the scene, Kira pronounces Letha as Latha or Latha, which is not how it's pronounced at any point in the rest of the episode.
Well, that's his nickname that only Kira, like, called him.
Well, it's like in the next scene, she calls him Letha, so I don't know. This leads me to believe that was the first scene filmed, is what I'm getting at.
Oh, yeah, it could be. Or they came back and picked it up, like, 2 weeks later, and she'd forgotten how to say his name.
Oh, yeah, that's also possible. Or maybe they filmed the death scene first, where he says his name is Letha, and then we have this scene where she calls him Latha, and then, like, they were like, oh, wait, didn't he pronounce it Letha in that other scene? I don't know. A million possibilities. If Memory Beta doesn't know, then I guess nobody does. Later, O'Brien catches up with Kira in the Replomat to subtly remind her to not go on any crazy commando missions while she's carrying his baby.
Yeah, like, seriously.
It's like, okay, yeah, I know, I know what you're thinking, but let's just, be cool for a little bit.
All right, so in his article in Memory Alpha, it does say that the script specifically calls out his name is pronounced Letha Mabrin.
Okay, so somebody wasn't reading their script that day.
Yep.
Then they get a call from Ops. Somebody is calling wanting to talk to Kira, and they're using caller ID blocking, so Kira has to come and see what's up. This turns out to be Trenton Falla, former Shakar informant, who has heard about Letha and is sure that someone is watching her. Well, Worf and Dax are flying back to DS9, so we'll just have them swing by Bajor and pick you up, says Kira. Cut to Worf and Dax in a runabout. Dax has apparently lost a lot of money to a Tongo hustling Starfleet captain. Although it sounds like she might have accidentally just hustled herself.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because Worf's like, maybe you shouldn't have, like, taunted that guy and then, like, upped the ante upped it to no limit.
Before finding out if he was good at Tongo.
Right. Anyway, Worf won't lend Dax the money, so Dax threatens to borrow it from Quark, presumably in an effort to make Worf jealous or something. But Worf points out it would not be wise to be in Quark's debt. And he actually calls him Quark.
Yep, I totally noticed that, because we've talked before, like, according to Memory Alpha, he never calls him Quark, but this time it's like, Quark may lend you the money, but...
So Memory Alpha lied to us.
Yeah, I was looking in the notes, like, did someone say this is the only time he calls him Quark or something? But no mention.
Huh. But did you look back at the one from, I guess it would be Way of the Warrior.
Yeah, hold on, let's go back to the Way of the Warrior one.
We need to see if we've caught out Memory Alpha in this lie.
Okay, Way of the Warrior episode. Not the novel, the episode. Prune juice, No, maybe it was the episode after this.
I feel like it was pretty close after Worf came on the show.
I agree. That
we were talking about this.
Oh, here we go. Beginning in this episode, Worf never speaks of Quark by name, merely referring to him as the Ferengi bartender. Aha! He continued to make this reference throughout Deep Space Nine's run. So yeah, that's from Hippocratic Oath, the second episode after Worf shows up.
We got you, Memory Alpha. All your nerd power is for naught.
Suck it, Memory Alpha. You are a wiki, so I could go and edit you, but
right.
That seems like work, you know.
Anyway, Worf quotes Rule of Acquisition. I think it was 111.
It is Rule of Acquisition 111, sure is.
Which is treat people in your debt, or people in debt to you as family, exploit them.
Yep.
And we learned that Worf has the Rules of Acquisition memorized because, as a graduate of Starfleet Academy, he knows many things.
The way you say that is if Jadzia is not a graduate of Starfleet Academy.
But also I was wondering, did they even know about the Ferengi when Worf was in the Academy?
Yeah, because they met them for the first time, like in that Next Generation episode, right?
I thought so.
I mean, Picard met them years earlier, but I don't know that he knew it was the Ferengi at the time.
I don't know. Maybe some professor at Starfleet Academy knew all about the Rules of Acquisition somehow. I don't know. I feel like there's just like a backstory waiting to be uncovered here of what's really going on. What really happened to Worf during his days in the Academy.
No, Worf didn't mention it, but he had some time in Starfleet intelligence undercover with a Ferengi or something after the Enterprise was destroyed.
I'd like to see Michael Dorn in Ferengi makeup.
Be the tallest Ferengi ever.
Who's that 6'5" Ferengi walking around? Anyway, they arrive at Bajor to beam up Trenton, which leads to a fairly grisly scene.
Yeah.
As Trenton begins to materialize on the transporter pad, smoke just starts coming off her, and then when it's over, she just collapses as a charred skeleton.
Yeah, she's also like clearly in horrible pain while being transported.
Right. As basically all the molecules in her body are being horribly rearranged. Odo identifies this as the work of a Ramat detonator, a small device which can be hidden on a person and scramble their transporter pattern the next time they beam somewhere. It's used by the Romulans, but it's also sold on the black market, which means that either the Romulans are behind what's going on, or somebody else is.
Somebody with some money.
True. Somebody who knows how to get to the black market.
Yeah.
Kira heads to the temple, but while she's walking down the promenade, she hears a familiar digital voice coming from Quark's saying, "That's two." Apparently, Quark intercepted a pad addressed to Kira and, quote, accidentally activated it.
Lucky that wasn't a bomb.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, yeah, that was, man. I'm still not clear on what is supposed to have happened here. Like, did he deliberately steal the pad and was trying to break into it, or did
I hadn't thought of that. I assumed that he was telling the truth. It's like, yeah, I opened up my shipment of such and such, and this pad was in there addressed to you. And then, obviously, accidentally activated it was a lie. But, I mean, if he was opening his shipment and found this pad addressed to Kira, he would naturally be very curious about it.
Yeah, the temptation in that situation for Quark would obviously be too much.
Yeah.
Anyway, Odo theorizes that the killer may be enacting revenge for a specific attack carried about by the Shakaar. Boy, maybe somebody should call Shakaar, says nobody. Then somebody hacks into Odo's computer and his TV displays a picture of another Shakaar member and the message, "That's 3."
You guys, your security center should not be this easily hacked, Odo. I mean, come on.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they're trying to set up that this guy has insane technical skills, but also this guy is never mentioned later in the episode when the guy is explaining his reason for killing all the various people, but...
Is he not?
I'm pretty sure, because I, rewatched just to see, and I'm pretty sure, his name was not mentioned. It's like the Vedic guy, set up the explosives. The transporter accident lady gave them the layout of the house or whatever. And then, like, the two people who die later stood guard. But it's never explained what this guy did.
This guy is mentioned in the earlier episode, Shakar, as one of the people that was detained by the Bajoran militia and asked questions when Shakar's on the run.
Oh, interesting. Wow, somebody went through the effort of, like, rewatching that episode, I guess. Good job, Ronald D. Moore or somebody. Anyway, Kira goes back to her room, and once inside, hears a sound of a struggle coming from outside. And she has a security guard with her, by the way. She arms herself with a phaser, turns out the lights, and goes into the living room, where after, like, 5 minutes of just looking around in the dark, she runs into Pharrell and Lupiza, the two people from the episode Shakar.
Yeah, it was nice to see them back.
The episode where we also met Shakar. They say sorry for beating up Kira's security guard, but apparently he's cool, so... And they tell Kira...
He's like, yeah, I'll leave now.
Yeah, he's like, oh, okay, bye. And they tell Kira their plan. When she figures out who's killing people, she can tell them, and they'll go, take care of it. I don't know, says Kira. Maybe we should let, like, the police handle things. Then Pharrell and Lupiza give Kira a gift. Macara herbs.
Yeah, she might have had trouble getting them, so they picked them fresh. Very, very considerate, honestly.
Yeah. Maybe the fresh ones taste better. I don't know. But man, they just keep coming back to these herbs this episode. Probably means nothing.
Yeah, I'm sure there's no relevance there whatsoever. I'm honestly kind of sad that we don't get to see like this play out, where like they send these two as a hit squad and then they get killed like in that process.
Ooh, yeah, that would have been cool. In fact, they just die off screen and we never see them again.
Yeah, and it sucks because I like them.
yeah, they're cool. We got the one guy's Martok, right?
Is he? Okay, hold on.
I think we had this discussion last time. Also.
We probably did, yeah.
The one guy is somebody. I remember that.
Played by William Lucking.
Okay, so he's not Martok.
No, he's not. Let's see. He's okay, so he played Pharrell in these DS9 episodes and Harad Sar in a 4th season episode of Enterprise.
Oh.
Seasoned veteran film, television, stage actor, perhaps best known for his role as Piney Winston in Sons of Anarchy.
Oh, wow.
What else is he in?
If I'd seen that show, maybe I would.
Right, yeah. I've never seen that show. So what else has he been in? Aaron Brockovich, Red Dragon, The Rundown.
I'm 100% sure we've had this entire conversation on the Shakar episode, but...
Yeah, it's entirely possible. Oh man, he starred as Colonel Lynch in the A-Team. I remember. Oh yeah, Colonel Lynch is the guy who, like, in the first couple seasons is after the A-Team all the time and trying to catch them.
Oh.
Yeah, I remember that.
William Lucking deep dive.
Yeah, that's what you get here, folks.
Right.
Is this kind of detail.
I mean, come on, you've been. This isn't your first time listening to us. You know what the.
I mean, it could be, I suppose, but.
Yeah. Well, they're definitely not still listening now. If it was, so.
Saying now you got me looking at Lupiza, who is not in as much stuff, but has been on random shows like Murder, She Wrote and How I Met Your Mother for one episode.
Sure.
Oh man, she was in Batman Returns.
Oh.
A lot of people were in Batman Returns.
For sure.
And Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Ooh.
Nice.
Wow. So, man, what were we even talking about? They gave her the
Pharrell and
Macara
Lupiza showed
herbs.
up. Yeah.
So, yeah, they invite themselves to sleep on Chief O'Brien's couch. And speaking of the Chief, he comes in wearing his full uniform and is met by two strange Bajorans who are just about to blow him away.
Yeah, just instantly guns pointed at him.
Who's this guy in a Starfleet uniform? Maybe they don't recognize the new uniforms?
Yeah, that's what it is. They're like, what's this?
What is this?
They may not see a lot of Starfleet people, honestly, on the planet. So.
Yeah, that's true. So, Odo reports that the third Bajoran guy has been found dead, killed by a little bomb planted behind his ear.
I do love the variety that this murderer feels it necessary to use. It's like, he could have used the bomb behind the ear on all three of the first people, but instead he's like, This lady will probably transport at some point, and won't it be hilarious when, like, trying to escape is exactly what kills her? Oh, that'll be awesome. And then, like, this guy, I'm sure he'll light this brazier at some point, so we'll have the thing hide in there.
Yep. The other guy, I don't know, let's put a bomb behind his ear. Which apparently he had to, like, send in a drone to, like, plant the bomb behind his ear. It was a whole elaborate.
Yeah, like, he keeps using hunter probes, is what Odo says. Like, it was a hunter probe that shot that first guy, and it was a hunter probe that probably planted this bomb. And presumably a hunter probe was also responsible for planting the remat thingy, either on her clothing or in her skin or whatever.
Mm-hmm. So he holds to his personal revenge theory, of which the logical conclusion is that once everybody on the revenge list is dead, it will be Kira's turn.
Well, yeah, I mean, why else is she getting all these messages?
Right. And
then nobody else is getting the messages.
She's just the one that he hates the most for some reason, which is never fully explained, I don't think. But, yeah.
I think it may be more a matter of he's saving her for last because of the pregnancy thing.
Ah. And just as an added bonus is sending her the taunting messages.
Well, he needs somebody to know. He's got to send them to somebody. So if she's going to be last, it may as well be her.
He's got this whole... He's clearly a very crazy guy.
Oh, yeah. Like, yeah.
So meanwhile, Dax analyzes the weird messages with the help of Nog and his super Ferengi ears. They're able to descramble the voice and discover it's Kira's voice.
I do love that Nog instantly knows, like, species differences through listening to them.
Sure.
He's like, oh, that's a Bajoran voice.
Like, yeah. I buy it.
And maybe this is like an outside of Universal Translator thing where he's like, oh, that's someone speaking Bajoran.
Maybe.
But I don't know.
Yeah. Just some subtle thing that only a Ferengi ear can pick up on. Then an alert comes in. There's been an explosion in the O'Brien quarters. Kira punches her way to the quarters through just a ton of people who are trying to stop her.
This pregnant lady beats up so many people trying to save her life.
But then she collapses from pregnancy exhaustion or something.
Yep.
And then she wakes up in the infirmary where Dr. Bashir, in the cold, robotic tone you would expect from a good friend and comrade, tells her that she suffered from a placental laceration, but everything's okay. Oh, except her friends are dead.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, those guys are dead, so, you know. Then Odo comes in to check on Kira, and she tells the story of joining the Resistance at age 13. Everyone thought she was too young, but Shakar looked at her and was like, nah, give her a gun and let her come and kill some Cardassians. Then they went out and killed a bunch of Cardassians, and it was the best day of Kira's 13-year-old life. Odo is presumably taken aback by the many layers of fucked upness of that story.
I mean, yeah, it's really messed up.
But he knows that this isn't the right time to comment, so he just, listens politely.
So apparently part of the idea behind the episode is Ronald D. Moore's like, we want to show like some more of Kira's past as a terrorist and be like, it's not just her being like, oh yeah, I used to be a terrorist, whatever, without any real meaning behind it. They wanted to they wanted some bite to this. And so they're like, what were some of the horrible things that she did? But Rick Berman was like, I don't know. Because anytime that you're trying to make the characters less than ideal, Rick Berman would kind of get nervous and be like, I mean, especially after Gene passed, and he would always ask, like, I don't know, would Gene approve of this? I think the answer to Deep Space Nine in general was no, Gene probably would not approve. So,
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Gene would approve of this this story of a 13-year-old girl who got recruited and just immediately started killing people. It's also just like, wait, so her boyfriend Shakar is the same guy who, like, everybody else thought she was too young, but he looked at her and was like, no, put a gun in that 13-year-old girl's hands. And that's the person that she's going out with now.
I mean, she still appreciates it all these years later.
True. Apparently, it was the best thing that ever happened to her. So I don't know.
Like she got to like aim, like the Cardassian skimmer landed, and people started getting out, and she just fired until the weapon couldn't fire anymore.
But anyway, Odo tells Kira that he's used his contacts to put together a list of suspects with the motive and the technical skill to carry out these attacks. But he doesn't want to show it to her because, he's still working on it. And Kira's like,
Also,
yeah, no problem.
It's amazing. It's amazing that they could get a list of anybody who was, especially like his contacts on Cardassia, knew all the attacks done by the Shakaar Resistance specifically.
Right.
And like all of the people related to anyone, even the friend, anyone who had a friend that was hurt by that. And then all of those people who has, which of them have the technical skill. This is a really impressive list to have been able to put together, regardless of who did it.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, one thing we know about the Cardassians is that they are meticulous record keepers.
That's true. Yeah.
And so I imagine you could just go in and do like an SQL query for like skills include high level technical skill, personal history include Shakaar resistance attack and stuff like that.
I love the idea that like after the occupation is over and they're getting some peace treaties signed or whatever, they're like, hey, can we sit down and we've got some like gaps in our records. Like which cell did this attack? Because we really just want to have this complete.
Uh-huh.
And so they go down a whole list of like a million attacks and they want to know who did each one, just for the record.
Right. Although, I mean, first of all, I totally believe that could happen. And second of all, from what we know of the Shakaar resistance cell, them and their exploits were pretty well known. So.
That's true. Well, and I get the impression that like a lot of cells like were geographically limited, like they did stuff in their area.
Yeah, that's been a thing that's been mentioned a few times. Is like they were always in that one province. So
yeah,
the Dakur province or whatever.
Right.
So anyway, Kira acts like she's not going to follow up, but she's prepared. She pregnancy waddles over to a computer panel, pushes a few buttons, which transport her directly to Odo's office.
Yep.
Steals his list of suspects, then beams directly to a runabout, presumably.
Yeah. Activates Kira Transporter Program 2, which is transport me from here to a runabout.
Right. That's probably a useful program to have.
Well, that's true, but I'm just saying, like, she was set. She was prepared for all of this.
Yep, she knew what she was going to do.
But she made one mistake. She left Odo's chair facing the wrong way.
Oh my gosh. That's, you can't do stuff like that with Odo.
No, he's very spatially aware.
But she did even have time to set up a Polaron field to mask her trail, so...
Yep.
And so apparently Kira just starts flying from planet to planet, eliminating names from the list.
How she eliminates the names? Who knows? Maybe she goes in there and tortures them until she's satisfied they didn't do it. No, or maybe she goes in and has tea with them and is like, hey, did you blow up some of my friends? And they're like, what? My goodness, no.
Hey, are you the killer? Yeah, this is a... Who knows? That would have been an interesting thing to see all by itself. But the fourth name on our list is Silerin Prin. He lives in a remote cabin on a planet near the DMZ. A crazy person's type cabin, you might say.
No. I mean, this is perfectly normal person cabin.
She does the tactically questionable move of beaming directly into his house. And is quickly ambushed by Silerin, who presumably was just sitting over there and he saw this person beam right into his living room and he's like, whoa, what?
Yeah, if this is how she's checking everybody on the list out, I feel like there's problems.
Yeah, he quickly ambushes her, stuns her, and force fields her into a big, comfortable-looking recliner.
Apparently, if you look, the consoles in his house are from Space Station Regula 1 from The Wrath of Khan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Man, they just got all kinds of stuff in that, like, props and set warehouse or whatever.
Right.
But the thing about Silerin is he's a narrator.
He's been on his own, presumably, for a while, so he has to talk to somebody.
He's just, like, writing a book in his head or something. I don't know. But through his flowery narration, Silerin eventually reveals his backstory. He was a uniform cleaner for Gol Pirak, and was messed up when Kira planted a bomb in his house. Don't you feel guilty for targeting civilians, says Sillerin. Hell no, says Kira. Yeah, I killed tons of Cardassian civilians. I was a terrorist. You know what's terrifying? Dead civilians. I killed 1 million, and I'd kill 1 million more if you gave me the chance.
So, first note, the guy who plays Sillerin Prin, Randy Oglesby, previously played the Miradorn twins in the first season episode Vortex.
Oh, wow.
So, he's returning. But, related to what you just said, Ronald D. Moore has an interview in here where he says, like, it really came across as I intended, and in some ways much better. A powerful, dark piece of television that ends in an unexpected way. Because both of them are right, and both of them are wrong. But on, like, in a normal television series, or even a film, when your heroine is confronted by a man from her past who's been wronged by her in some way, she'll usually say, you know what? I feel bad too. You're right. I wish I didn't have to do those things that I did. Can't we all just get along? But that would have been so phony, especially in this situation. So I respect the fact that Kira looked at Prin and said, screw you. You expect me to feel sorry for you? 15 million Bajorans died in the occupation. You people were on our land, you didn't belong there, and you were all guilty. I mean, that's pretty bold. You can't say whether it's right or wrong. It's the stance of a terrorist. But it's what I felt Kira absolutely believed at the core of her being.
Yeah. I mean, this is pretty consistent with what we've seen of Kira before, so...
yeah, we know that she's killed lots of dudes during the occupation, and honestly, I have a hard time arguing with her that it's like these guys who invaded our world and enslaved all of us. It's like, well, I'm sorry that you were here as a uniform cleaner on the planet where your people enslaved all of us, but screw you. You shouldn't have been there.
Right. Also, what a job, uniform cleaner.
Yeah. I mean, somebody's got to do it.
Yep. Yeah, she's basically, you know, she's like, it's like, yeah, they deserve to die, and I hope they burn in hell, or whatever it was. But yeah, Sillerin's like, no, you have darkness, I have light. See, I only kill guilty people, which is why I'm going to take out your baby before I kill you. And Kira's like, oh wait, before you do that, can I have a sedative? And then Sillerin's like, okay, whatever.
Oh, I will have mercy. Something you never had.
I have light. You have darkness. Darkness and light. That's the name of this episode.
Roll credits.
But it's a ploy. The sedative. It does nothing.
And also, he decides that, oh, well, since I've used the sedative, I can turn off the force field now. There's no particular reason for me to, but why not? I'll save a little bit on my power bill this month. And
yeah, this is what confused me, because wouldn't he have to turn off the force field anyway? But
I mean, I don't think so, because I'm pretty sure, like, the medical, like, they have medical force fields in, like, the bio beds that keep someone in place while they do surgery on them. So I assume this is sort of the same sort of deal.
Either way, it doesn't make sense. Nitpick of the week.
Yep, there you go.
Because either he has to turn it off or he doesn't, and either way, what happens doesn't make sense.
Yep.
But yeah, remember those Makara herbs that were subtly mentioned earlier in the episode?
She's been taking them.
Yep. Good. She's been following her doctor's advice. Good for her.
Yeah.
And so she pretends to be asleep until the force field is turned off, then jumps Sillerin, grabs a gun, and just shoots him. Then the Defiant arrives to the scene where Kira sits a little shaken up, mumbling stuff about how light only shines in the darkness, and innocence is just an excuse for the guilty. Everybody looks around like, what?
We didn't ask that, but all right.
And it's like, that makes no sense. But nobody wants to say anything, so they just all go home, leaving the dead guy just laying there.
Yeah, they teleport away, and the dead guy's just there.
Right.
And they're like, man, I sure hope that we found the right one, or that you found the right murderer guy. I guess we'll leave.
Right. And then
no questions about what you did.
The camera just lingers on that guy.
Yeah, you know. So, as Fletcher kind of alluded to at the beginning of the episode, the Brian Fuller based the idea for this on Agatha Christie's novel And Then There Were None, also known as 10 Little Indians, also known as
also
very
known
inappropriate
as something else.
Yep. So, and I like it. Moore is quoted in here about the origin of the episode. He's like, I don't recall Fuller's exact involvement in the timeline there. I do remember that he had gone to one of our writing seminars, and we bought that pitch, and then he did the story, but then I wrote the script. Brian is a genius, and we were lucky to get it because the episode premise was, at the time for us, really wild and out there. But it turns into... I mean, it's a very dark and different episode from most of what we've seen them do, but in this retrospective that Hollywood Reporter did in 2022, they named this as one of DS9's best outings, saying it's Star Trek's disturbing take on Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None, a gripping thriller that pits two murderers and war criminals against each other, with each believing that they are the heroes in a story that has none, only casualties.
Interesting take.
Yeah.
We've talked about this Hollywood Reporter list before, haven't we?
We've talked about the Hollywood Reporter doing some lists. I don't know that it's that exact one, but they've done a few, I think.
Sure. We've talked about lists. You know, everybody's always making lists, so.
Yep. Everybody loves a good list. We do the lists ourselves at the end of each season.
True.
Only one other note about this one, and it is that if you watch, you can see Cisco's comm badge flip above and below the gray shoulder pads in between scenes, as sometime during this episode they switch from the jacket that does not fit to the jacket that does fit.
I did not notice that, but interesting.
Yep. So there you go. The Hollywood Reporter quote kind of strikes me, where it's just like, these are two murderers who both think they're the hero of their own story in a story that actually has no heroes. And I was like, that, I don't know. What do you think? Do you agree with like that sort of take?
I mean, that's not quite what I got from it, but, I mean, the Cardassian guy just came off as a crazy guy to me, so.
Yeah.
I wasn't really thinking in terms of like how I'm sure he does think of himself as the hero, but
I mean, he's pretty explicit in his narration about how he's the good guy here.
Right. But I wasn't really thinking about like how valid his position on that matter was, because I was just like, this guy's kind of deranged.
You're literally insane. Okay.
But I don't know. What do you think? It's an interesting take, for sure.
I mean, look, there's an argument to be made that Kira does make about how, like, you had no business being there, and so you were a legitimate target for us trying to gain our freedom. But at the same time, it's like, here's a guy who... It's an empire with lots of planets, right? And his boss tells him, okay, you're going to go to this planet and clean my uniforms. Does he have any idea, like, if that planet was there voluntarily? Does he have anything to do with that?
Right.
And so, if I'm him, and I'm just, I'm showing up on a planet and doing the job that they sent me there to do, which is clean some uniforms, and then someone blows me up and, like, screws up half of my face or whatever, I'm probably pissed off, too. And I mean, he goes a long way for revenge on it.
Right.
But, like, getting real elaborate and like I said, the variety that he's using when there's no real reason for that. There's no reason not to just like send hunter probes to plant bombs in all of them and have them all go off at the same time, like it's the end of Kingsman or whatever. But I mean, he wants to have fun with it.
Sure. I mean, the guy definitely he got screwed over. I think that's pretty clear. Like his possibly amazing talent for uniform cleaning was cruelly twisted to put him in a bad situation.
I mean, did he gain all of these like tech skills after the fact? Because the Cardassian files show that he has all of these skills. But if he had all of those skills beforehand, why was he cleaning uniforms?
This is a good question. I don't know.
So maybe he took some like extension courses at the like Cardassian community college after he got blown up. I don't know.
Maybe he was like, I don't know. He was trying to get in on the Cardassian GI Bill and or something. Yeah. or like he was paying for school with his uniform cleaning, or he's working for his dad who's a uniform cleaner, and he was going to Cardassia Tech or whatever.
Yeah, that could be.
There's no novel about this guy's
Oh, that's a good question. Hold on. Let's
about his where he got his uniform cleaning skills and his technical skills.
Let's see if there's any extended universe. Memory beta. Here we go. Male Cardassian working for Gul Morad Pirak. Impressed with the hollows of Ileana Gamor's paintings that Atan Rukal displayed to his fellow Cardassians, Prin discovered the body of Olu Vasdel, the Bajoran liaison to the Cardassian forces at Hathon, who'd been murdered for being a collaborator. He was so distraught at what he saw that he had to be sedated. Apparently, that's the only extended universe references to him.
That's interesting. Okay. That's a really kind of weird, specific scene to have, like, no follow-up.
Yeah, I guess that it's from some novel that took place during the occupation.
Sure.
And it's just like, oh, we need some Cardassians who were living around here to, like, populate this scene. We'll put this guy in there. Sure. Why not?
It's like, who's that Cardassian guy who fainted? That's Siller and Prin. Wink,
exactly,
wink to show fans. So let's do some quick Dr. Bashir watch. What's going on with Dr. Bashir this episode?
He's given some good pregnancy advice, I assume. I mean, they bring the herbs also. Apparently, this is just a well-known thing that Bajoran women need when they're pregnant. So,
true.
Seems like fine medical work to me. Yeah. Nothing at all perfectly normal human doctor guy, Julian Bashir. Yeah.
I have noticed we've mostly just been seeing Bashir lately doing medical stuff.
Yep.
And not really being very, very chummy with any of his fellow people.
Yeah. I mean, he does, like, when Kira asks about, like, oh no, what happened to the chief or whatever, he's like, oh no, Miles wasn't there when it happened. So maybe he's still hanging out with Miles. We're just not seeing it.
We're just not seeing his, like, Holosuite games with O'Brien.
Yeah. Right.
And, we're not seeing his lunches with Garrick.
Yeah, what a shame. What a shame.
I wonder, that would be interesting to see him having a lunch with Garrick.
Yeah.
I don't know why I say that, but
I mean, he did some pretty tricky medical procedures in the last episode to repolarize some neurons or something. So
That's true. So his skills seem on point, maybe.
Yep. Oh my god, randomly, Brian Fuller's birthday or day and month is the same as mine. I just saw in his article. So random, although he was born in 1969, so he's a little bit older than me. How many days would you say that this episode takes?
Well, I meant to keep track of that, but then I forgot. So, I mean, a lot of it could have happened, like, all in one day.
Yeah, it seems possible.
Frankly. Like, it is plausible, like, from when we first heard about the Vedic guy getting killed.
Yeah.
And then, let's see what happened. Then she got the call, they brought her over. They brought the other lady over, she died. And then they got the call of the third guy in Odo's office. Then Pharrell and Lupiza showed up. And then they all got blown up. I mean...
Yeah, presumably they did sleep in between Pharrell and Lupiza showing up because she was going to her quarters to sleep.
True. Okay.
So that's at least 2 days. Okay. But...
And maybe another day then of her flying around investigating.
Interrogating people or whatever. So yeah, like maybe like 3-ish days.
Sure.
At least.
Sure.
Okay. making notes.
Yeah, and there's also some implied time with however long it took them to fly back on the Defiant, and yeah, we'll call it 3. I think that's a fair number.
Okay.
Anyway, I guess time for reviews.
Okay. What did you think of this one?
All right, so I do like seeing kind of a darker, this type of thing where it's like some from your past, some really bad and dark from your past might be catching up with you. Kind of, seeing that side of things, like the Cardassian occupation and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I feel like the whole premise of the episode is just a little repetitive from many other past episodes where we've seen Kira wrestling with her past before.
Mm-hmm.
And like we've mentioned, I don't think I've ever seen Kira less conflicted about the stuff she did in the occupation. Just, I think, because she's gone through all these other like stories before, and so I think she's like pretty well knows where she stands on all that.
Yeah.
And I also feel like the buildup of the mystery it just feels like it's promising way more than it ultimately delivers.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I don't know. And there's all these twists like, oh, it's Kira's voice. What could that possibly mean? Well, it doesn't mean anything. It just means this guy stole like Kira's voice or whatever. Like, you're thinking it's like, oh, could this be some kind of like a Thomas Riker situation? Or is there going to be some huge twist that like the real what's her face? Remember the girl that they thought was Kira, who
Ileana Gamor.
Yeah. But no, just some crazy guy who Kira is able to easily defeat and leave, barely giving him a second thought. Like, so I didn't feel like the moral of the story that there are no heroes, just casualties or something, really shone through that much to me. But I don't know. So overall, I think it's kind of negative. So I'm going to give it a lieutenant.
Okay, interesting.
So what do you think?
So I'll just one other point of interest here. This is one of 2 Deep Space Nine episodes that do get a story from Brian Fuller. Then the second one being a little episode called Empok Nor.
Oh.
And so I feel like we know the style that Brian Fuller, because he'll go on to do 20 episodes of Voyager, many of them with that same, like, let's see, The Raven, Barge of the Dead, The Haunting of Deck 12. And so, yeah, he has a style, clearly, is what I'm going for here.
And I will say that, like, that really dark take on things really shone through.
Yeah.
So...
And I bring that up to say that I really like that here.
Okay.
I like the style that they're going for with the episode. I like the build up pretty well with the murders. I agree with you that I think the biggest weakness is the payoff, because if you are looking at the Agatha Christie story, then like the big twist is that, like, I think it, because there's 10 people and they're all slowly getting killed off, and it's a mystery who could be doing it. And it's like the third guy that is found dead, it turns out that he's not really dead, and he's the guy behind the whole thing. And so, and you find that out at the end. There's that interesting twist at the end. They fail to make any sort of twist here. Uh-huh. It's almost hard to believe that this super crazy guy could actually have done this intricate, detailed murder spree. But and so that's a pretty glaring weakness in the type of story that they're trying to tell. You're trying to do a take on Agatha Christie, but it's not. It's played as a mystery the whole episode, but you never see them figure out the mystery, because it's just like, oh, I have a list of names. Yeah. Oh, we've skipped to the third or fourth person on the list of names, and it turns out it's him. Like, that's not solving a mystery. That's not actually dealing with the mystery. That's just like, oh, we don't have any time. We need to go ahead and jump to the end.
Right.
So that is a big weakness. Despite that, I kind of love the episode.
Oh.
Like, this is one of my standout. I remember it. People getting gradually murdered, and Kira like freaking out, and the dark take on it that goes along. Like most of my favorite episodes of the series overall have like that dark turn to them.
Right.
And so for me, it's actually like, does this go to the top level because of that like glaring weakness in the story, or does that bring it down? And I think, and it may be irrational, like how much I hated the last episode was irrational, but I think
Sure.
for me, this is like a top shelf episode, and I'm going to give it a captain.
Oh, wow. Full captain.
Yeah.
Man. And it's like, that's all you can review based on your personal feelings. So,
Right. Yeah.
man, I was thinking would be a good twist is if the Vedic guy turned out to be the killer, because they even set up this whole thing where he was this formerly violent guy who found the prophets or something. So
maybe he's like, we all deserve this for what we did during the occupation because he's found
right. Yeah.
He's
like
that would have been a like almost directly Agatha Christie story sort of twist. That, and you could have even had this other guy, like he could have been working with this other guy, and we're led to think it's this simple solution of this Cardassian with a grudge that Odo found on his list, and then just when Kira's like gonna get the upper hand on him, oh look, it turns out that like it was this guy all along who's really the mastermind or whatever. Like, you could have made it twisty. You could have made it feel like an Agatha Christie. They didn't.
Right. It's like, wait a second. How does a lowly uniform cleaner rig up all these explosives? Yeah. Or it's like, they could have been like, it's like this, it's like these explosives all have the same like chemical signature of the ones that were rigged up by Latha.
Yeah.
Or, stuff like that. But
that would have been good. Like if, Kira goes off on her own to hunt down this guy, and then while that's happening, Odo is doing actual detective work. And so intercut with her, like, finding the guy and about to get the drop on this Cardassian, you have, like, Odo figuring out that, oh my gosh, like, the chemical signature on the explosives, it's all exactly like, and then you cut to,
Yeah, it cuts to her, like, in the house, and then out of the shadows steps, what's his face, Latha or whatever, with a phaser.
Yeah.
He's like, I was hoping it wouldn't come to this. There's so much darkness and light and whatever. Darkness and light themes. That's another complaint, is that I just feel like the darkness and light kind of theme is very weak.
Yeah, it feels tacked on at the end. It's just like part of this guy's insanity. There's not a whole lot of... Right. What if the twist was that it was Shakar behind it?
That would be a crazy twist.
Yeah. No one would have expected that.
It's like, I've gone so crazy going from being a freedom fighter to a politician, or I don't know. I don't even know how you could...
yeah, I don't know how you explain that.
Write that, like, character twist, but...
It turns out he's a founder.
Oh my gosh.
That may be getting too twisty at that point.
See, this is, because Deep Space Nine was serialized, but it's like, you kind of think about, like, what if it was, like, a more modern show where they could get, like, really deep into the...
Yeah, like, you could have, like, if this was a more modern show, then you would have ended this episode and they would think that they got the guy, and then in a future episode it would have turned out that there was more to it than that.
Yep. Yeah, we'd keep revisiting and finding new stuff, and yeah. But it was the time, and they were doing what they were doing, and apparently they just had network executives messing with their crap all the time. So I'll say also, just I think the line like, "light only shines in the darkness" might be one of the dumbest morals I've ever heard, but it's like, but light also shines when there's other light. I don't get what she was trying to say.
I mean, I don't know.
Is it like when the night is darkest, that's when you see the brightest stars or something like that?
Well, I mean, there's it's a theme that I've encountered before, where it's like, if there were no darkness, then there wouldn't be light. There could be light, but you wouldn't have the contrast, so you wouldn't recognize light as more positive than because there would be no other. That would just so I kind of get that, but at the same time, it's just like in this situation,
how does that relate to this?
Right? Yeah,
just seems like a bunch of darkness to me.
And sometimes innocence is just an excuse for the guilty.
Yeah, it's like
it is.
What are you trying to say?
I mean, I assume that's supposed to specifically relate to, like, he's part of the occupation, but he's claiming innocence because, I'm just like a lowly servant. And that's just your excuse for, but in his specific situation, the statement makes sense. I don't know that it works to generalize that.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, title review.
I mean, I will give it that I remember what episode this is when you say this title, because it is so tied to, like we talked about, it doesn't really make sense in general with the episode, but it is harped on by Crazy Man so much at the end that I remember the connection. I can make the connection. So in that way, maybe it's memorable. I don't think it's clever at all.
Right.
And I, like I just talked about, I don't know that it's appropriate or fitting or whatever the other criteria is for the episode in general, but it is for the last 5 minutes. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, just this whole darkness and light thing feels like it was tacked on, like in a rewrite or something. It's like, we need to come up with some deep sounding lesson to take away from this. What about the darkness and the light? I mean, I guess it is pretty memorable, so it is relevant because that guy just because they forced that guy to keep ranting about it. So
exactly, it's relevant to that section of the episode where he talks about it nonstop. Yeah,
right. Anyway, you have any final?
Only one more thing that I found looking through Brian Fuller's entry here that I thought was fun. He says that when he was a kid, he liked Star Trek and he liked the Munsters.
Sure.
Because of the inclusivity of them. It's like the Munsters, you got to let your freak flag fly.
Right.
I got there. And then we learned in Star Trek that there's a whole universe of different people and all of them are okay. I was living in a household where my dad didn't want me to watch The Jeffersons because it had black people in it. It was that level of kind of small town 70s suburban racism.
Wow.
So that's what he's trying to combat with this episode or something.
That sounds like an extra level of racism.
Yeah, I agree that it does sound a little bit. Then again, I wasn't a kid in a suburban community in the 70s, so maybe that was just normal. Whatever.
I mean, I feel like they're just a little bit above and beyond typical racism, but I wasn't there.
But so good. Good on you, Brian Fuller. You've done some good work, in my opinion, on Star Trek. So, and in other things. So, glad to have you on board.
Yeah. For this and one more episode that we will review.
Yep.
But I guess we'll call it there. If you like this episode, maybe you want to go listen to our review of Shakar and see if we had some of the exact same conversations in that one as we did in this one that we don't remember.
Or go into the future, if you're listening to this a long time after it came out, and see what we say about Empok Nor.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
And see if we have some of the same conversations there that we just had.
Yeah. So, always got to remember those future people. They're a demographic. So, or they eventually will be.
But possibly the most important demographic, since no one is listening to this right now.
True. I'm just thinking, it's like, this is a picture of me when I was younger. But
yeah, I mean, for all we know, Elon Musk is going to buy YouTube and turn it into Y, and no one will be allowed to post anything on it. So maybe our future episodes will be elsewhere.
Y would make too much sense. It'll be called it'll be like one of those special characters on the keyboard or something.
Like he'll buy from Prince's estate the character that represented
right.
Prince, and then use that.
But yeah, you can find all our past and possibly future episodes on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you're listening to this, Google Podcasts, whatever. My name is Fletcher. About to say goodbye is Data.
Adios.
We look forward to seeing you for our next discussion. But remember, don't stand between me and the light and the dark meet.
I didn't see that one coming. Okay, yeah, nice.